Okay, so what's the difference between lion diet and carnivore diet? Um, that is a good question that I get pretty often, and I think it's important to explain that because I think people get a little too weird on the whole carnivore thing. They get a little bit elitist. Like, oh, well, if you don't eat grain fed, or I mean, if you don't eat grass fed beef, then you're not a real carnivore. Or if you don't do intermittent fasting, then you're not getting the full potential of blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get that. And I get that that works for you, and that's awesome. But that doesn't mean that it's a ranking. That doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Everybody is different. Everybody has a different experience or response to these things. And that's what happened exactly with me with starting out with carnivore diet and then transitioning into the lion diet. So carnivore diet, I actually didn't even start out with the typical carnivore diet. I started with only meat and animal fat. And a lot of people include with the carnivore diet dairy and eggs and, butter, which is in dairy, but a lot of different things. And for me personally, I did it more of like an elimination diet where I removed everything but animal meat and animal fat for 30 days. And then I reintroduced those carnivore foods like dairy and eggs. And I personally had a reaction to all of those things. And so, yes, carnivore is one definition of that. But then also, I realized even within the meats that I was reacting to some of the meats. What? Like, that blew my mind that I was actually reacting to certain meats. And I noticed that I felt better on certain meats. So as I realized that, I would remove that meat. Like, I removed chicken. And I realized that sometimes whenever I would eat chicken, I would have this emotional response where I would react either with irritability or more moody. And then as I removed the chicken, I felt better. So, process of elimination, I just naturally removed chicken. And then I realized that as I was eating pork, I was having trouble finishing my plate. And if all I'm eating is meat and meat fat anyway, animal fat anyway, I should be able to finish my plate. And I couldn't do that. I was like nauseous whenever it was pork. But when I was eating beef, oh my goodness, my body was so happy. I felt just bliss just ingesting this beef and beef fat. And so I just transitioned into only eating beef. And that is the lion diet. The lion diet is beef or beef fat, salt, and then water, obviously. And so salt and water are part of carnivore as well. But it was more for me, yes, it had to do with my mental illness, with, my emotions and irritability, depression. But it was also a component with my autoimmune disease. I think that it was key for me to remove some of those other meats, for me to reduce that inflammation and for me to, function properly as far as neurologically. And so lion diet was best for me, but I still consider myself carnivore. Just like I don't believe that there should be any ranking of better or worse. It's just me. It's just what worked for me. And so other people can have eggs and cheese and milk, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they're any worse or better of a carnivore than I am. It's just a way of eating, and I think it's really important for us to just accept what works for us and not put a label on it as far as best or worst. It just is what it is. So I just wanted to let you know that my thoughts about that, and to kind of take away some of that elitist kind of mentality from eating this way, because it's not about better or worse. It's just about what works for you. Thanks.